Hopefully it'll not do that thing it was doing before. I really hope it doesn't. Let me send Dr. B the invite. Okay, guys. I hope it's working this time. Gmail. There we go. Okay. Okay, guys, here we go. Let's do this again. Okay, guys, let's do this again. Okay, I know I'm being quiet, you guys, but earlier, I know you, it was like backfiring. So what would happen is when I would say something, you would hear what I was saying like 6 minutes after I said it. So hopefully when Dr. B gets on, hey, Dr. B.
I'm here. I might be working now.
Yes. That sounds good.
Is that, yeah, you sound good.
Okay, cool. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm super excited to have you here on the channel. Thank you so much.
I'm excited to be here.
All right. Okay. So can you see the chat, like the chat on YouTube?
Should I go to YouTube?
What I have is I brought it up on my phone and I lowered the volume all the way down on my phone so I can see the chat as it's going. So that way, if I can read the questions to you, or you can see them as they go, whatever you want to do.
I got two screens, so I can have two up, but I don't see a new. I see do the 12-step fellowship support MAT. I don't see a new talk.
Like a new live stream, like where we're at?
Yeah.
Oh, it's up because we're on. This is YouTube right now. I got it up on my phone.
Yeah, so I should be up there. So it's weird that I'm not up. Let's see how. Trin, can you help out? Can you help out? There's a live stream. I found it. I found it.
Okay, cool.
So let me pull it up.
Okay, cool.
All right. Let me pull it up. All right.
And I think what you'll have to do is lower that, whatever you just turned on, lower that to where we can't hear it, because it's going to go, it's like when it goes onto YouTube, it's a couple seconds behind. Whatever you just turned on, lower that to where we can't hear it, because it's going to go, it's like when it's a couple seconds behind. Whatever you just turned on, lower that to where we can't hear it.
Okay, I lowered it completely.
Okay, good.
Oh, wow, that's better.
Hey.
All right.
Okay, cool. So we had about 20 people in the live stream before. So I have some questions written down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for all those people to get in here. But while they're all filtering in, can I ask you some of the questions that I wrote down for them?
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming on the channel, Dr. B. I'm super excited. I've never had a doctor on my channel before. So this is like a first for the Real Talk Recovery family.
It's my pleasure and my honor.
Thank you. So the first question I have for you is, what kind of doctor are you? Are you an addiction specialist? Are you a family practitioner? What kind of doctor are you?
Okay. I have an interesting background. I've been a professor of emergency medicine for the last 15 years. About my whole career has been, I've been professor of emergency medicine. I initially was at a major trauma center, Kern Medical Center, UCLA. You know, I know you guys are all on the East. I think you guys are in, but that's University of California at Los Angeles. And I finished that career at University of California at Irvine, again, professor of emergency medicine, clinical professor. During that time, I became interested. I was always interested in substance abuse, heroin overdoses, and the way it kind of evolved was I never, I've trained dozens and dozens of residents. I've, written a lot of academic papers. I've trained lots of medical students. I was a professor of, emergency medicine. But during that time, one of my particular interests was overdoses on heroin in the emergency department. And it just, for whatever, I have a lot of substance abuse in my family, and we never used to talk about that. But all of a sudden, I'm like, well, that's who I am. So for some reason, I was very attracted to that. And I didn't like the way residents, other doctors, other attendings treated heroin addicts. I'll give you a couple of examples. A guy comes in, he's got a large abscess on his left shoulder, the whole thing's falling off, and no one's willing to give him any morphine, 2 milligrams. Oh, he's a drug addict. And that used to really infuriate me. And I would teach residents, I would teach medical students. I'm like, if it was a normal guy, we'd be giving him 6 milligrams of morphine every hour. The guy is a heroin addict, his arm's falling off, and you think we should give him one? So that was one area that really disturbed me. The other area that really disturbed me was overdoses. I treated a lot of overdoses at county hospitals for years, training residents how to do it. One of the things that happens is when overdose happens out in the field, the emergency medical services would just slam it with 2 milligrams of naloxone. You got Narcan. You guys all know it now. This is a big ER medicine. Now, the real dose of Narcan is 0.4 milligram. Less and less doctors understand this stuff. When you give someone 2 milligrams of Narcan, you wake them up immediately, but you put them into precipitated withdrawal. Well, this person would come in and they're hurting, and it's a homeless guy, and it was probably his last 20 bucks, and all of a sudden he wakes up in this terrible state, and everyone thought it was funny. Well, back in the old days, you can't do this anymore. I would keep him for 6 hours, make sure there was no pulmonary edema, and I would give 10 milligrams of morphine. Why? Because that's the kind, benevolent thing to do. Give him some morphine, give him some food, hydrate him, and send him out. All those things, the fact that I got tired of the corporatization of academic medicine, wearing ties and suits, getting more involved in addiction medicine, I left. And I started doing addiction medicine. I've been doing it for a few years. In fact, the real test just came out last year, and I'm going to certify this year. But I've seen hundreds and hundreds of abuse patients, and I'm pretty well known in Orange County. If you look me up, I'm kind of a well-respected, I think, addiction specialist in Orange County. I have my own medical office, which might be the only medical office that's strictly addicted to substance abuse. And that comes from World Health Organization standards that you should do that because this is a chronic disease, and I use a harm reduction model. That means everyone's respected. I meet patients where they're at. I'm not their police. I'm not their cop. I'm a physician. I'm their ally. I'm their supporter. So I start from their substance abuse, then I deal with their psych, their abscesses, all their other stuff, build a rapport, and I get good outcomes. And I have a nonprofit aftercare IOP that supports medication-assisted treatment and a sober living. That's the short of it.
Heck yeah! You are passionate like I am, and that makes me so excited because I feel like what happens between the doctor and the patient, I know from my own experience, and I know from a lot of the people in the chat's own experience, is that when we go in to see our doctors, because I'm on Suboxone, I've been on Suboxone for almost 4 years now, and I got lucky. I have an amazing doctor who actually cares about whether I make it or stay sober or not. But I know a lot of the people in the chat have had bad experiences where it's almost like you go in, and I know that, I'm a drug addict. I know that the behaviors that I was doing in my active addiction were wrong. And I also know that I can be I have manipulation tactics whenever I'm like whenever I'm in active addiction. But like when you're working with a physician and you're trying to get sober and you're on medically assisted treatment, like my goal is to get clean and do the right thing. And so when you go in and you already have like this barrier between you and your doctor, like where they're treating you like you said, like they're the police and you're the criminal, that's not helping at all. And so I'm so excited. Okay. So I'm reading the chat right now, and so I have a question for you. Okay.
Okay.
Krissy says she's been abusing benzodiazepines for 20 years, and now she is on 4 to 6 milligrams of Xanax and 8 milligrams of Klonopin.
Wow.
Do you think she would be able to go into a detox, like a detox for 5 days, and be success, like go through detox, and when she comes out, what would she need to do? Would she be able to detox there, or do you think she needs to go into long-term treatment?
Okay, so I guess I have to pre-qualify this. This is not medical advice. This is consult a physician, but this is my opinion of these issues. So I guess I got to say that before we get anything going. So the benzodiazepines, I will tell you my experience from what I was told, and this is not medical advice. What's the young lady's name?
Her name is Krissy.
For Krissy. Here's the response. I would say most programs, most offices, most detoxes, A, don't know how to do benzodiazepine detox, and B, can't do it and don't understand it. Someone like that needs, here's how my, number one, almost all of my benzo detoxes are successful, except here's the caveat. It takes months to a couple of years. Remember, patient autonomy, respect, you're not there to torture them. If you look at the clinical literature, and again, I don't pull this stuff out of my ass. You got to read the literature. A detox of 5 days for somebody like her is, number one, inhumane, it's cruel, and it's not going to be successful, and it's potentially dangerous. What I would do with someone like that is I would get her in there, build a rapport and trust. And although it costs me a lot of money because I charge the way we work, see, this is the problem. Insurance doesn't pay for this, so I went around that and do it a different way. The way I would do someone like that is they will have to make one basic commitment to me, and here's what it is. And it's not more money out of their pocket. You see me every week, and we're going to work together weeks to months to maybe a couple of years for a detox like that. If someone came and saw my clinic on a Friday and sat through my patients, how many of these people that we've done, starting on 8 milligrams of Xanax they were on, or whatever, 30 milligrams of Valium, week after week after week. And what I do is empower the patient and give them control, because people on benzo addiction, it's a nightmare. And when you threaten that benzo, they just really cringe and they're begging. So there's a way to go about this. You have to make sure you build a clinical rapport. They have to trust you. And as soon as you get that trust, you start to inch towards a slow, safe, humane, clinically safe detox. And you don't know how long it's going to take, and you don't know where you'll end up. You have to be committed to that patient for life until they need to be committed to you. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, because yeah, and that's what her because I work with her kind of like as an accountability partner, and that's because she goes to see her psychiatrist, and that's what he said, the same thing. He said they've got to work slowly but surely on just tapering down little by little.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. Okay,
sure.
So let's see. Okay. What is your opinion on long-term Suboxone use? Like years or more?
Okay. So first, the data on that. We do know that Suboxone absolutely categorically first-line treatment with methadone saves lives. Now, the next question, let's say I convince you of that, and I won't because that's not the question. The next question, how long do I have to be on it? Well, I will say this. We don't have what's called validated double-blind studies on that. We don't. World Health Organization doesn't. Most countries don't. So what's the answer? The answer is a clinical one. And the answer for the person that's concerned is that let's take this situation and say you have to be on it for the rest of your life. I don't know, but you might have to be. And let's take that. What does that mean? Well, the guy on blood pressure medication has to be on it for the rest of his life. The guy on heart failure medication has to be on it for the rest of his life. What are your choices, right? We can try to taper when the time is right. When is the time right? You have a job. You have a life. You have your family. Your credit scores going up. You're paying your bills. You're showing up to your medical office. I ask you, do you think about dope? No, I don't think about dope. How long have you been on this? 4 years. Okay, you want to try to taper? It's up to you. Yeah, doc, let's give it a shot. And then you do a safe, sane taper, and you don't threaten the patient. You tell them, if this doesn't work, we'll land where we land. And for the patient, if that's a concern, I ask them to think about this. Like I said, I use a cane for the rest of my life. Hopefully not, but potentially. I use, someone might use asthma medication, insulin. The option is dope, which means hepatitis C, hepatitis B, HIV, soft tissue infections, endocarditis, pulmonary edema, death, jail, prostitution, versus I take my medication. I have a life, no Hep B, no Hep C, no HIV. So I don't know, there is no science, there's clinical experience. And I do get people off of this stuff. And some people, I tell them, hold off, but whatever you want to do, I support you and we can try it. So yes, some people do have to be on this for the rest of their life, but we don't have the science, but we do have experience. Does that help?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, since I've been on Suboxone in this July, I think 13th will make 4 years. And for the first year and a half I was on it, I was really struggling because I was really involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I would go to these meetings all the time, and people, not the people in the meeting, but people that were that I knew that were in AA would say, aren't you going to get off that medication? Don't you know you're not in recovery because you're on that medication? Are you going to have to be on that medication for the rest of your life? And so for the first year and a half to 2 years of my recovery with buprenorphine, I was struggling. Well, then the third year I was on it, that's when I finally started to get my footing and realized that it didn't matter what other people thought, that I needed to be on this medication to almost build a foundation for my life. Like you said, getting a job, buying a car, getting married, having my kid, taking care of my kid, getting out of legal problems, going to therapy, counseling. And so what happened is what now happens is a lot of addicts are starting to judge other addicts, because now you have the addicts that are on medically assisted treatment and the addicts that did it through abstinence. And what I feel is that it doesn't matter if you get sober through abstinence or medically assisted treatment, that we're all on the same road to the same place, and everybody's journey is going to take a different amount of time. Where it takes me 7 years to get my life together, it may take somebody else 1 year, And so it's been it's been hard, I know, for me, and I know for other people on Suboxone, because there's this judgment from other addicts. I almost feel they feel because I'm on Suboxone that I didn't go through withdrawal and that I somehow cheated the system. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And one of my goals is to change public and family perception, because I think that attitude is cultist and fascist, and it's criminal. That I feel very strongly about this. That's why I make my environment that I work in, and I try to make it supportive, educational, and that breaks my heart when I hear this, but I hear this every day, all day, and it upsets me when there's 72,000 kids that died last year. So that's, when you ask me, hey, thanks for being here, thank you, because I support you guys, I encourage you guys, I want to empower everybody. I want, I'm not an enabler. I want to empower you to take your own road and know your own worth, and know that in the very myopic cultist attitude that we have in North America towards this medication. Keep in mind, if I took you to Northern Europe today, nobody would think anything less of you. And if I went through the logical, rational argument of what you said, you would see how insane they are, not you. You're just as courageous and brave and amazing to follow as, and in fact, if more people did it, we would not have 72,000. It's almost like saying, you know, I want to jump out of a plane without a parachute and see if I can land on, you know, it's insanity.
Exactly. And when I'm talking to people here on my channel, the way I describe medically assisted treatment is it's like when you break your leg, you have to get a cast put on your leg. And when you're in active addiction, you're broken. And so when you get put on Suboxone, it's like a cast. But not only that cast isn't going to do all the work in healing your leg. You're not going to just throw that cast off after your bone fuses back together. You're going to get your cast off and you're going to start physical therapy and you're going to do all these things to build your strength back up. So when we get off Suboxone, if we choose to get off Suboxone, because that's our choice and our God-given right as Americans, right, to choose that for ourselves, then if we choose to get off, then we're not going to just get off Suboxone and run around and go back to our old lives. We're going to be doing things proactively to build our recovery and to stay strong. So whenever people say, you know, I'm on Suboxone and people are telling me that I'm just replacing addictions, I say, no, Suboxone is like a cast for your leg and it's helping you heal. And when you get off of it, then you'll be able to walk without it, but you're still going to need a little bit of help. And that's the thing, like we're still going to need to practice our recovery and do our therapy and all these things, even whenever we're 20 years sober, you know?
Yes.
And so I'm so glad that you're able to, like, I feel like I finally have somebody here that understands what I've been trying to like get through to people for so long, because I feel like there's just so much judgment.
You can just bring that guy and give me my.
Yes, baby. Hold on. Okay, so I have another question for you. You ready?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So one girl wants to know, can a person switch from Suboxone to Bunavail?
Yes.
And if they do switch from Suboxone to Bunavail, when they switch from Suboxone, do they need to go up? Or would you, if you had a patient who was in this situation, would you have them go up in milligrams on their Bunavail?
The doses are not equivalent 1-to-1. So the Bunavail, I believe, I can't remember right now. It's either 4. So in theory, Bunavail boasts that you need a lower dose than Suboxone because their release mechanism is stronger. So there's a conversion table. So let's say if you're on 8 milligrams of Suboxone 3 times a day, all you do is look, well, what is the equivalent of an 8 milligram strip in Bunavail? And I think it's 5.7 or something. I can't remember, whatever. Let's just pretend. And then all you do is change it over to 5.7 3 times a day. And then what you should do is check back with the patient in a few days to make sure everything went over smooth and nothing has changed for them.
Okay. That's how at my clinic I had to switch from, I was on the Suboxone strips and my insurance paid for the strips. And then whenever all of a sudden they just stopped paying for the strips and they switched me over to the pills. And so it wasn't a change in the milligrams because they were the same medication. But I have had and then my husband was on the strips and he had to get put on Zubsolv. But when he got put on Zubsolv, they had to up his dose of Zubsolv because I think it was like a lesser milligram and didn't equal out to the same amount of Suboxone.
So sometimes people, just one addition, sometimes people, their physiology in their body, for whatever reason, doesn't take the Zubsolv or this or the other one that you said about Bunavail. They can't absorb it for some reason. And that's when you actually increase the dose. Just, he might have been one of those. But otherwise, you go by what they recommend the equivalent doses.
So tell me this, Dr. B. We have what's a good way to find a doctor experienced in substance abuse and addiction?
Oh, wow, great question.
How do you go? Do you go around and like would you make an appointment with the doctor and say, "Hey, I need to ask you a question. Do you know about addiction?" Like, how would you know if they're qualified like that?
How do I answer that? I don't know how to answer that. If and I'm sorry I don't. But again, maybe to a certain degree, I just feel so confident in what I do and have so much faith and belief in what I do that I do it well. And you know, the way my practice grew in all of Orange County is just purely word of mouth. Just this year, we're doing marketing. I think.
Because like you have to understand, like where I live, I'm in Arkansas.
Oh, okay. I thought you were okay.
A lot of people here, a lot of people are in the South. A lot of us that are on Suboxone are in the South, where there's a lot of people that don't understand medically assisted treatment.
Yeah.
See, you're over there in California. Y'all are ahead of where us here in Arkansas, because we just now, like, I think there might be like a handful of prescribing physicians who can prescribe Suboxone here where I live.
Well, you know, but I would, you know, I think you'd be surprised, even though there's a lot more guys that can prescribe it, the attitudes are the same and the knowledge is the same. Look, I always tell people a monkey can write a prescription. It takes a physician, a clinician, and a professional to understand when to write a prescription and how to write it. So, you know, I think the best thing to do is, you know, you want to look up Suboxone doctor. You want to try and make sure you get some one-on-one time with the physician instead of somebody or nurse practitioner just writing the script. You want to look. Addicts are some of the smartest, most interesting, sensitive people I know. Sensitive in that they know bullshit. They smell it a mile away. So when you go and you sit down with this doctor, almost all these kids, all these guys, they know when someone's full of shit. And you know when someone gives a shit, right? And you know, I challenge anyone to argue with me in that, because they just know. And I think your internal clock, your internal sense of ethics, and your internal sense of if someone's full of shit will set you straight. And when you know, and when you go to the doctor, check for that. You know, see if he understands where you're coming from. See if he's being judgmental. I don't really know how to answer that question well. No, I'm sorry.
What I would say, and I would answer it, was to just be, I would answer it as to just go in and ask the questions, and you be transparent, and hopefully the doctor will be transparent and open-minded too. And if they're not, just like you said, I can always tell, like when I get a new counselor or I have somebody that maybe they like went to school, but I always, like, for some reason when I get counselors, I always get along with the counselors who have like been through what I've been through and have been addicts. You know what I'm saying? Like, I give everybody a chance, but a lot of the time I think that as long as we just ask the questions and we try to be honest on our part, hopefully the doctor will do the same. And I think also, just like you said, looking it up and finding doctors that are like, because here in Arkansas where I live, we have like UAMS, and there is where all this, like the doctors that treat addiction and psychology, that's where all them work. So I know that if I go to this place, they're going to have the doctors who know about addiction.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so the next question we got is, what's the average time you see someone stay on medically assisted treatment, and do you see many relapses when they taper?
You know, I don't see average time. I don't have an answer for you, because again, for me to answer that question honestly, there would have to be validated double-blind placebo studies, and we don't have them. I do taper my patients, but some might have been on it for 2 years. Someone might have been on it 10 years. I don't see relapses during the taper because it's so controlled during that time. But while they're on medically assisted treatment, I do see relapses. and that's okay, because if they weren't on it, it's called regression to the mean statistics. If they weren't on it, the relapses would be harder, worse, longer. Okay, so I don't see relapses during the tapering. I do see sometimes difficulty, and we bring it back up. How long they're on it, there's such a huge range. You know, you get an old school methadone guy who's 65 now on Suboxone. You know, it's going to be, he's been on it 15 years, 10 years, whereas some guy, I have some executives, you know, a couple of guys that are, you know, big executives in companies, 2-3 years because they were just not doing heroin, but let's say they were doing oxys and they got their shit together and they're ready to go and they're off 2 years. So I think the range is very wide, and each one of you should not look at another person, but look at yourself, your clinical status, and where you are in your life, and then make sure the doctor is concurrent, coherent, and adds to your views about that, because that's all we have, that clinical view. Don't worry about how long, worry about where you're going and if you're getting there. And your doctor should.
We got to worry about if we're progressing. Like, that's what I try to explain to everybody. It's like, it doesn't matter that, okay, so I got on Suboxone in 2015, and it has taken me every bit of 4 years to get to this point in my life where I have money in my savings account. I am paying my car payment on time. I am looking to buy a house. My husband is fully employed, working 40 plus hours a week, because my husband is also in recovery and he's also on Suboxone. So I don't know. That's kind of a question that I wanted to ask you is, do you see a lot of people when they come into recovery or when they come in to get on medically assisted treatment who are couples and they're like married or boyfriend and girlfriend? Do you see a lot of people who are come and get into recovery together, make it and stay sober? Because whenever I tell people about me and my husband, they're like, wow. And even my mom, she told me when we first started dating, she goes, this is a bad idea. Because we've been together for 8 years. This is a bad idea. You both are drug addicts. It's never going to work. And now 8 years later, we're making it work, and we're staying sober, and we're doing it together.
I have a few, and so a few of my most exemplary clients are couples, and a couple of them are from your neck of the woods, and I just saw them Wednesday. They are amazing. I adore them, and together, and the children. I mean, they are rock stars, and I'm happy to bend over backwards for them, because they've bent over backwards for themselves, and they're going to give something to that child. So it's not that I don't see too few, and I don't see a lot. I see a number, and it's a good number, and it sticks in my mind, and I have a few of them, and they even come in together. And early on, when you see it, because there's so much dysfunctional people, and they get together in recovery, sober living homes, their mentality, okay, that's a different story. But when you see a couple, when you see children involved, when you see 2 to 3 or 4 years, you should celebrate them even more than normal human beings, because they actually, let me tell you what they're doing. We live in, if I may digress for 1 second, we live in a hyper-consumer society. It's a world of wham, bam, thank you, ma'ams, okay? Everything is quick, and let's move on to the next thing. Addiction is a hyper-amplification of a hyper-consumer society that just wants you to feel good for the moment and move on. Now, you get a couple that beat addiction and are doing well in their relationship and their family values. Wow, you have rock stars. And I have a few of those in my program. And they should not only be celebrated, but they should actually be looked at for support. That's how I feel about them. You guys are great.
Look at who's beside me. Say hi, Nate.
Yeah, he's a rock star. What's up, buddy?
And look at me. He's my assistant. He knows all about Real Talk Recovery. And
I don't.
Yes, he's sassy too. Okay, so let me see. I got some more questions for you, I think. Okay, I wanted to ask you, so whenever I first got on Suboxone, I was super skinny, Dr. B. Do you know, does Suboxone make you gain weight?
It's not one of the known side effects. The major side effects are constipation and a little bit of testosterone decrease.
I think probably what happened is I got sober and now I actually eat food. So
I think you got healthy.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Can
But-
you make it sticky again?
Yeah,
Yes.
baby.
Can you make it?
And then,
Can you
okay.
make it stick on these edges?
Yes,
and-
baby. Shh. So okay, so another question I have is when you are okay, so my doctor told me that whenever I'm taking my dose, I let it melt underneath my tongue, but then afterward I'm supposed to spit out the residue. I'm not supposed to swallow it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I tell people to when they ask. In fact, yeah, you don't want to swallow it. It doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't. It really shouldn't do much to you. It's not going to get all that absorbed. You can spit out the residue. I don't make it a point to tell people that, but he's technically correct. But it doesn't really hurt you. But you don't, might irritate your stomach. You won't get much absorption from swallowing it.
I am so happy that you're here. Okay, I'm gonna see if I'm gonna try. Let me see if I have any other people that have any more questions. So tell us about your practice and let everybody know, because I know I have some people that are in California. I have a lot of people who are living in California, and if any of them are struggling with addiction, can they come and like come and see you and talk to you if they need help?
Absolutely. I have, like I said, I run a couple of things. I have a medical practice, which is an outpatient clinic that is strictly, primarily substance abuse as your primary disease, like a diabetes clinic. And I'm there 3 days a week. That's a Zephyr Medical Group. I guess, I don't know how to, I'm a horrendous marketing guy, but it's Zephyr Medical Group. But, if you put in my name or ZEPHYR, or if you go to the YouTube, it's there. And then the one that my flagship that I'm really proud of is American Addiction Institute of Mind and Medicine. That's a nonprofit IOP PHP aftercare that supports medication-assisted treatment, which is a very rare thing, except now they do it to get insurance money, but we support it, we educate on it, and we run our own. We're affiliated with our own sober living homes that support it, help you manage your medication. And those are my practices, American Addiction Institute of Mind and Medicine and Zephyr Medical Group. I think on my YouTube channel, and I don't remember what it's called, a phone number of something is up there. You can,
Yeah, it is. And whenever I put this video up, I'm going to link all that stuff in the description box and in the comment section, because I'm going to tell you, I have, what I have found with working on YouTube with other addicts and alcoholics is that it really takes a lot for someone to reach out for help. And when they do, and they do reach out for help, they're ready for you to grab their hand and help them. So I try to gather all the resources I can, so that way when people email me and message me here on YouTube, that I'll have those resources that I can give to them right away, because I know it takes so much guts to work up to asking for help. Because I know for me, I spent 13 years in active addiction, and 10 of those years I wouldn't ask for any help. And so the last 3 years, I actually started letting go of that, pride and that shame and that embarrassment, because I felt like I should be able to do this on my own. I should be able to get sober. I'm weak-minded. It's a choice. Don't I know better than this? And that's a question I want to ask you. What do you think about when people say that addiction is not a disease?
I think it's criminal and dangerous. I think, in my, what is it called? Not in my podcast is where I really want to explore this idea. When you say addiction is a disease, that's a model. That's a conceptual model. Why do I like it? Because it gives me answers and I can predict. For example, like any other disease, I can say, this is wrong with this person because of this. That makes sense. And if I put him on this medication, the chances of outcome is this. So it's a great model as a disease. But there's one other thing. I like to also call it a symptom of a sociological disease. And a lot of researchers are talking about as addiction as the pathology of our social situation. And that gives answers. And why is that important for me? That's important for me because of this. We as a society are responsible for the opiate epidemic. And we as a society need to educate ourselves and also have the moral and ethical courage to be able to support and assist our addicts into recovery. That's why that's important for me. It's critical. And when you tell me it's a moral choice, I think that's also criminal to be saying that, because I can tell you when a kid walks in, I can look at him and 99 out of 100 times I know his whole life history. Okay. And so it is a social symptom of a social pathology. And that's why that's important for me, because the prisons need to be reformed. Okay. The debt system in this country needs to be reformed. The way families are coming up in this country needs to be reformed. And all of those will look, a happy person does not commit suicide. And if you're in a, and so society, the social society, and this is all shown by sociologists. If you have a person living in a happy environment, there's no suicide, there's no anxiety, there's no depression, and there's no drug addiction. Okay, when you throw a guy in jail and lock the keys and throw him away for the next 100 years for a non-violent offense, and then you isolate him from human contact, what the fuck do you think he's gonna do?
Right.
And so,
I went to prison for a year, and when I came out of prison, I was probably worse than before I went in. And it was all because of a drug related. It was because I got busted with dope. I had dope in my car. And that they put me on probation for 3 years and told me I didn't know how to be sober. I didn't know what to do. They said, you're on probation for 3 years. If you fail these drug tests, you're going to go to prison. And you know what happened? I failed all the drug tests and I went to prison. And then when I came out, I just got high again.
It's horrible.
I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn anything in there. I just learned how to be a criminal even more.
Exactly. And it goes deeper in that. And this is not the place. I'll talk about it more on my podcast. But well, you know, it's basically it's a corporatization of human enslavement. Okay. And someone's making so all of these things need to be addressed, including supporting substance abuse, addiction, treatment programs, and kindness and generosity to our afflicted. I really believe that deep down.
Me too. I think that if there was more compassion for people that were struggling, instead of like, it almost is like punish people who are struggling. And it doesn't make any sense. And I like what you said about happy people don't commit suicide. A happy person who loves themselves, who doesn't go out and get high and shoot dope into their veins. And
absolutely.
I tell people that all the time. Like, I was shooting up and I was getting high because I felt this. I don't know any way other to explain it to you, is that I was insecure, had no self-confidence, low self-esteem, depressed. I just didn't feel like I was normal. And that's before I even picked up a drink or a drug. Like, I can remember when I was like 17 years old, when I got high for the first time. I got high because everybody else was getting high, and I wanted to be a part of that group. They all got high and they stopped, but I got high and I loved it. And it made me feel like, wow, this is what I've been looking for all my life, you know? And so my friends went off to college, and here I am, sticking a needle in my arm, and I had a great upbringing. My parents are still married to this day. Like, I grew up in a great household, but there was something going on inside of me that I was not a happy person. I was just sad. And when I found drugs, they gave me that extra edge, I felt like,
Absolutely. And it's a common story. And since you're bringing this up, one of the things I wanted to tell you, if you're interested, I would like you to do, you know, the little 10-minute things I do, but I also have the podcast, which we have YouTube, and have the whatever podcast, Spotify. If you're interested, I would love to set it up where we do it's 45 minute to an hour podcast. And if you're interested, it's just basically me interviewing you. And what I want to know about is your entire life and your road to recovery. If you're interested, I'll have Austin set that up as well.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do that. Anything I can do to help anybody else, I'm more than willing to do it.
Great. Good.
Okay, I have to ask you a couple more questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Some people say that there is a difference between generic Suboxone and regular Suboxone. Is there a difference?
Now can you go?
Great question. Everything okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think it's in my bag. Sorry. In the bag, in my bag. I'll show you my baby too in a minute.
Okay, cool.
The answer is this. Usually for years with any other drug, I would say, no, there's no difference. And then, the generic of this stuff came out. And I just had patient after patient telling me, man, this stuff that, the pharmacist is giving me, which I use my next door pharmacist only because I want a close clinical supportive community. So she's amazing. They would say, this stuff isn't the same as my Suboxone. And I realized, you know what? They're not full of it. There's some of these batches just aren't the same. So I just started to believe my patients. And what I do now is I tell them, hey, if this doesn't work for you, tell me. We're going to change it to the real Suboxone. So I think there's truth to that. Absolutely. That's my opinion on that.
I'll tell you this. I thought, hold on, baby. I thought that they were full of stuff too until my husband got switched from the Suboxone strips to the Dr. Reddy. I guess it's like a generic strip.
I don't know.
And he goes, Nicole, I don't know what is going on, but like I'm sweating halfway through the day. And this never happened when I was on the name brand Suboxone.
Yes.
And he said, like, we went to see the doctor, and the doctor said the same thing. Like, I don't know if it's like, he said he used this word bioavailability. I don't know if it's like different in those, because the Dr. Reddy strips are like really thick, and the Suboxone strips are like not. And so it's a different like feeling and everything. And but a lot of people here are saying the same thing. So there's got to be some truth to it, because I mean, his body was like showing signs that he was, going through withdrawal by starting to sweat.
Yeah, I get the same thing all the time. So I just kind of believe it now. And whatever it is, whether it's bioavailability, because in theory, it's supposed to be the same bioavailability. So I just to listen to the patient, especially the ones I know, and I just go right back to it. Yes. So that could very, very well be a difference.
Okay. When traveling with your medically assisted treatment with your prescription, is it recommended to travel with a doctor's note?
So I don't send what I do with my patients is, and the doctor's note is not a bad idea. What I do with my patients, and I'm a little liberal on this, I don't suggest most doctors do it. I'm like, make sure you have your bottle and tape my card on the bottle. And I write my phone number on the back, my cell phone number. If I've known you for a long time, I put my cell phone number. I'm like, if you get into any trouble, if anyone gives you any crap, there's my card and there's my cell phone number. And a note wouldn't be a bad idea either. And maybe I'll start doing that too, just because all the issues that we know of.
Especially if you're like going on a plane or something, because I know that, do you know what my doctor told me? He said that if I get pulled over and I have one extra Suboxone in my bottle than what it says on the outside of the thing, that I can get in trouble for that, even if it's my prescription.
Potentially, yes. They can do whatever they want. So I tell people, potentially he's right. If someone's a real ass, they could really harass you.
Crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me see. I think I got a couple more. Okay. What do you think about the problems that they're having opening needle exchanges in Orange County? This is from an Orange County girl. I feel a lot have the view of not in my backyard. Like they don't want a needle exchange in their backyard in Orange County.
You guys are asking some amazing questions. In fact, I just gave a hour-and-a-half lecture to the Board of Supervisors 2, 3, 4 months ago on this issue. They invited me, and then they realized I was extremely pro harm reduction. The people that put that needle exchange up, I know very intimately well and support them 1,000%. What is my opinion? Look, I'm very hard on this. And I'll tell you this, my opinion is supported by 50 years of data. Harm reduction, you're a criminal if you don't have a needle exchange up. It's wrong, and you're killing people, and you're barbaric. I'm sorry, I feel very strongly about this because, it's in fact, I say you should open up a clinic, and they should be able to go in there and shoot up, not in the way things are done now, and I hope people take it out of context, but my goal is to save lives and find an opportunity for long-term recovery. I don't want the kid to go in there and get endocarditis and die 3 months later from a heart infection. So you're telling me, he's going to, look, the data supports what I say. 50 years of international data say absolutely. And it actually shows you how barbaric we are in Orange County to shut down a needle exchange clinic. You should have a needle exchange clinic 1,000% and make that a place where you can intervene with kids and possibly get them to recovery. And that will happen over time. Why? Studies show that that's how it goes. You save money. You save money on disease. You save lives. What else do you want?
Exactly. I have a friend here on YouTube, and I'm going to introduce you to her. She had the same situation. She shot up in her wrist, and she ended up having to have her fingers cut off because she hit an artery in her wrist. And she also got endocrinitis, and she had to have open heart surgery.
Yes,
and if she had the option to go and get clean syringes and go somewhere where they could supervise her and make sure she was clean and sanitary, that would not have happened,
That's a $1 million surgery, endocarditis. It's a bacterial endocarditis and infective endocarditis, and it's from using needles. And that shouldn't exist today in our society in the 21st century. Excuse me 1 second. Right. Craig, I think I left it all at the office. It might be because we gave it to John and no one gave it back at the office. I'll look around here too. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, one more question. Okay, do you see a lot of patients that also have dual diagnosis? And is that common? Because Cindy wants to know because she's bipolar and she has addiction also.
Yeah. Yes. You see a lot of co-occurring disorders, the fashionable term now. I still call it myself dual diagnosis. It's very common, and I would even say it exceeds. Yeah, it's extremely common. I like to myself personally. I like to stabilize the addiction. And then to the extent that I can manage this, if there's any psychiatric stuff that needs to be managed, if I can't do it because it's outside the scope of my own comfort, because I know what I'm good at and what I suck at. And I have no problem in saying what, if something's too much for me, I dial a friend, one of the guys at the university that I've been with for years, or I send them out. And yes, it's extremely common, very common. You got to deal with the substances first and then deal with the secondary psychiatric diagnosis.
You don't understand. Like, you can ask everybody, like, everything that you're saying is what I'm telling them. I'm like, you've got to get the addiction under control first, and then you can treat your mental illness. And I'm like constantly, like, I feel like I'm preaching all of the time on my YouTube channel because I just want everybody to get to this point where I feel like I've gotten to in my recovery, where I feel happy and I feel free and I feel like I can actually give back and help other people now, And so, like, having you on here and listening to your answers, it's reassuring me that yes, Nicole, you're on the right path. Yes, Nicole, you're speaking the truth. You're telling them what they need to hear. Because sometimes, being on YouTube, you'll have people that come in and they'll kind of want to troll you or be negative, and people will have me second guessing myself. But I'm like, no, I know, because I've experienced this. Like, I've gone through this, and I'm sharing exactly what I've experienced and what I've learned over the last 4 years with everybody else.
So just so you know, I do know because I listened to it. I try and go on and listen to you, and I was, and I'm like, this girl's really got it. I mean, she's nailed it, and so that's, I'm like, I'm gonna support her in any way I can because I called Austin. I'm like, let's help her out because she's doing the right thing, and in fact, I listened to one of your answers recently. It was 3 a.m. I was just finishing work, and I put you on, and I was like, God, I got to get on with her. So I put on, I'm always late to your stuff. So it's 3 a.m. here. And someone asked you an amazing question about how they had trouble at the pharmacy. It was recently. And your answer, and your answer was exactly what I do at my clinic. How I set everybody up, and I take my patients to the pharmacist and introduce them and have them shake hands, and it's my pharmacist. And nobody ever goes back to CVS or anything else because of everything that you said. I was like, I got to get that. The next morning, I'm like, look, Austin, we got to get together with this girl because she knows exactly what's going on, and we got to support her thing.
Well, I had to learn to build that relationship with my pharmacist because what happens is, in my active addiction, I would bounce around from pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy. So in Little Rock, they all know me as the girl who would come in with the fake prescription pad.
Sure.
So whenever I hear people having the same problem, I'm like, you've got to go in and you've got to stick with the same people and build a relationship with your pharmacist. Don't be just going in there and then switching to somebody else the next time and then switching over here the next time. Like, it really is about them getting to know you. And I know, so it's just what it is, with the way addiction is and the way people they stigmatize addiction and judge. It's like my pharmacy now, they know me so good. They know I'm tapering. They know how long I've been sober. They know I have my son back. They know me and my husband just got married. Like, we have really built that relationship with them over time. And they've watched us get better and better and better as we've stayed sober.
And you did it perfectly because you built a clinical team around you that's supportive of what you're doing, and that will make you more successful. You did it beautifully. I heard you say that last time, and I was like, well, wow. Every time I listen to her, she's so insightful, and she knows exactly how to do this.
Thanks, Dr. B. I appreciate that. I really do. I really am so excited. I'm so glad that you came on the channel tonight. I mean, so many, and I want to have you on the channel. This is what I was thinking about. If you can, because I know you're super busy, maybe we could do like a once a month live stream where you come on the channel and just talk with everybody. Or, I mean, I guess I could get with Austin and have him schedule it with you, but I want to have you on the channel on a regular basis because my channel is growing, steady growing, and more people that are on medically assisted treatment are just needing support and just to be able to come on here and talk to the doctor and say hi. And I mean, you can come on here and just get to know everybody, because I have regulars that just come in here and they're here every Friday night. And so I would love to just have you on as a regular guest, like once a month or something.
Young lady, whatever I can do to assist you, figure it out with Austin. I suck at technology. I suck at marketing my own stuff. But for you, whatever you want, figure it out with Austin, and I'm happy to help you. It's your show. You decide what you'd like. If you want me on there once every other week, once a month, once every 2 months, once a month sounds great. Whatever you want, I'm happy to assist you. And Austin is awesome. He takes care of everything. He knows I'm a complete illiterate with computers, and we'll make it happen. You guys decide, and I'm going to talk, if you can, talk to him, or we can schedule. I want to get you on for my podcast series about the sociology of addiction.
Yeah, I'm going to text him when we hang up here. So I'm good. Are you good? Do you want to say anything else before we go?
No, just I don't know how many people are out there, but you guys you are a testament to the courage of a person's convictions. Don't forget that, okay? The medication is nothing, right? It's like telling somebody who has cancer, and because they decided to get chemo, they're cowards, or they're not really fighting cancer. So you guys, in fact, I believe if we get hundreds of thousands of you guys in recovery, we can have a revolution and have a better world. Because like I said, some of the most passionate, some of the most insightful, some of the most brilliant, some of the most sensitive people I've ever met are people dealing with this issue. And if I can leave you with one thought tonight, you are not an addict. You are Nicole, you're Joe, you're Henry, you're a mother, you're a father, you're a son, you're a doctor. You are a human being that has attributes and things about you, and addiction is one of those. You are not at all defined by addiction, and let addiction be a lesson in life and not a crutch. That's all I have to leave with.
Exactly. Amen.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I second that notion. Addiction does not define us. I learned from this experience, and I will be better from learning from that experience. It took everything that I went through to get to where I am today. And all those things I went through, negative, positive, everything, built me to where I am today. And I'm grateful for those experiences, you know? And so I'm never going to let my addiction like define me or let anybody use that against me. My addiction and being an addict in recovery is the strong part of me. And that's one of the parts of me that I'm the most proud of, because now I can share those experiences with other people and help them.
Absolutely.
Hey, okay, Dr. B, I'm going to text Austin so I can get with him and find out when that podcast is going to be, okay?
Awesome. So good night. Thank you for having me. I'm going to go see my child, and let me know whatever I can do, and I'll see you very soon.
Thanks, Dr. B. See you later.
Good night.